Sasuke and Itachi are two of the most iconic characters in all of anime. The journey these two sent us on as fans was one filled with awe-inspiring moments from beginning to end, and I think we can all agree that these two powerful shinobi helped shape the Naruto story in many ways. Although we did actually get to see them fight twice in the series, neither encounter was truly fair for varying reasons, so I thought it would be interesting to pit them against one another in scenarios that would be a lot more fair and interesting, and see how the brothers do. In other words, today we'll be exploring and breaking down Sasuke vs Itachi, form by form. So before we break into this, I want to go over the individual matchups that we're going to have, and then, take it one by one. But I also think it is obviously worth noting I'm not doing this alone. Today I have a very special guest with me. He's been on the channel before, I've been on his channel before. He's one of the GOATs, so always happy to introduce him on my channel. Six, go ahead and say what's up, bro.
Hey.
It's not nice, sweet, and to the point. If you've been living under a rock and you're not subscribed to Six, obviously go subscribe to Six, but I imagine everyone watching this has already done that. So that being said, Six, the first matchup that we're going to have is CM2 Part 1 Sasuke versus pre-Anbu Itachi. Do you want to talk about sort of like the assertions for CM2 Part 1 Sasuke, or like Final Valley Sasuke, I guess?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple different ways you could take it. The main route I see for Curse Mark 2 Sasuke, and this is just due to a lack of opponents at the end of Part 1, and the only opponent he has is Naruto, who also has a lack of opponents. Their best showings are kind of against each other. Whenever Sasuke does go to Orochimaru's hideout and Kabuto starts talking down to him a little bit, he riles up his chakra and he manages to scare him. Kabuto obviously being a shinobi on par with the likes of Kakashi, at least in the eyes of both Orochimaru and Jiraiya, who seem to have a pretty good gauge of that character. It's pretty impressive for Sasuke to, give him the spooks. So if you say Sasuke is around that level of power, then he's obviously a really strong shinobi, jumping from what was just Chunin level up to pro Jonin level and just awakening a 3-tomo Sharingan and getting the first stage of the Curse Mark. Sage informed me about a little bit of information on the Curse Mark 2 I didn't know, which I'd like for you to present, your information. That makes me believe Curse Mark 2 isn't as big of an amp as people would have otherwise believed, and I think it makes sense with the rest of the story and how Sasuke fights with this Curse Mark. If Curse Mark 2 isn't as big of an amp as everyone used to see it as. But yeah, you can go ahead.
It's really interesting because we know for a fact that CM1 boosts their physical stats because we get to see it. It's demonstrated. But CM2 is weird because for, Tauyuya, it only references making her genjutsu stronger. For Kidomaru, it only references giving him unparalleled precision. For Jirobo, we do get a statement about him getting physically stronger, but that's his thing. That's his ability. Sakon and Ukon as well. We get a statement just talking about, their chakra increasing, but then also their little cellular degeneration ability is what they gain access to. And for Sasuke and Kimimaru with the Heaven and Earth seals, it just says that it's not readily apparent. So it's like, okay, well, they're transforming. You can see that they're transforming. That's readily apparent. So what that means is that in combat applicability, it's not readily apparent. And if they were getting a blitz tier faster, I think you'd notice. So what I think is it's probably more likely that you get the physical amp from CM1, and then when you go into CM2, you have the transformation, but essentially the majority of that chakra is actually going into whatever specialty or abilities that you have. So for Sasuke, the Chidori would get massively amped in terms of AP. He may get better durability from it, but those two things can pass because they're not readily apparent, whereas again, something like a speed blitz, tier increase of speed, is not something that you would just not notice. So I don't think that they get physically stronger or faster in CM2 than they were in CM1 outside of Jirobo just getting physically stronger. And if that's the case, it's actually, like Six said, it's really consistent based on how, Sasuke doesn't appear to get a speed blitz tier faster than Deidara whenever he goes into CM2 against him, right? So again, I don't think that this is something that amps him physically to an insane degree, but we wanted to give it to him because it does give him some sort of AP advantage, I think. So with CM2 Part 1 Sasuke, like Six was talking about, you can get him to those tiers of like Kakashi or Kabuto. But then you can also say, well, the other CM2, full power Sound 4, while he is above them unquantifiably, they're all like Chunin level. Like the four of them collectively got beat up by Genma and Raito, who are special Jonin, a rank between Chunin and Jonin, meaning definitively below full Jonin tier, and they're just stated to be out of chakra. So if you're getting beat up as a unit, 4 people at full power versus 2 people who are chakraless at that point in time, it's just not a good look. Like, you're just not on their tier. So for Sasuke to go from that level of Chunin that we get confirmation from Genma in the Chunin exams all the way up to peak Jonin sounds like a bit of a stretch to me, and I always interpreted that scene as Kabuto just sensing the power of his chakra, even if Sasuke can't utilize it to the same level he would, or to the level he would need to in order to actually compete with like Kabuto and Kakashi. How do you feel about sort of that interpretation, and like, is there anything else you want to add to this version of Sasuke before we go into Itachi?
No, there's nothing else I really want to add. Like I said, it's just you can get Sasuke to those higher Jonin levels.
Yeah, so his opponent is pre-Anbu Itachi, and I gotta say, he's smart, he's versatile, he's supposed to be like arguably the most promising, prospect coming out of the academy of all time, all that stuff. And he performs really well in the Chunin exams against his opponent, which is kind of what I want to hone in on, is like, pre-Anbu Itachi does not have the scaling assertions that this version of Sasuke has. However, he does have just OP genjutsu that he uses against his opponent in the Chunin exams to like make him give up. Essentially, this guy is a lightning style user that utilizes his abilities at their full capacity when he's sleeping, which is weird, but it's just how it was. And so Itachi not being able to keep up with him physically and only being able to like dodge him from distances away, he uses genjutsu to force just terrible nightmares into this guy's brain so then he stays awake, and then he kind of like beats him that way. So Sasuke has no genjutsu defense or offensive feats in part 1. So I think that a genuine potential win con for Itachi here is just genjutsu GG. His genjutsu has been great since literally day 1, since before he even got the Sharingan. So this is probably a pretty solid matchup, with Sasuke having the scaling advantage and then Itachi having sort of a skill, intellect, and then hacks advantage. But I'm not sold either way because they're both really difficult to quantifiably scale. So I think Six and I agreed we're just going to leave this up to you guys to drop make sure you guys drop a comment and let us know what you guys think, because these are 2 really difficult characters to scale. Also, if you're enjoying yourself or maybe have learned something in this video so far, make sure to like and subscribe. Unless you're one of those people who puts in the milk before the cereal. If you're one of those people, then you can just leave. Next up, we have beginning of Shippuden Sasuke versus early Anbu Itachi. Sick, you want to go over sort of where beginning of Shippuden Sasuke can be at and like what his assertions are?
Yeah, I think beginning of Shippuden Sasuke is pretty much definitively over Kakashi. I think he's over the lower tier Akatsuki members as well, that being like Kakuzu, Hidan, etc. When Naruto learns the Rasen Shuriken, he successfully lands the attack on Kakuzu. Kakashi's looking at it like, yeah, well, this guy probably finally surpassed me, since he has a jutsu like this. Now, Kakashi does take this statement back because Naruto doesn't have the Rasen Shuriken after all. They find out it damages his chakra network, but that doesn't change that Naruto with the Rasen Shuriken, Kakashi said, does finally surpass him. And they say that Sasuke is always beyond Naruto's eyes, basically making him want to get stronger. So Naruto shouldn't have been caught up to Sasuke at that point. Therefore, neither should Kakashi, who he himself doesn't think he's as strong as Naruto. And I think that's a bit consistent, considering Naruto, even with a Three Tails cloak at the beginning of Shippuden, in Orochimaru's own words, was not even in the same league as Sasuke. So Sasuke, at this point, whether it was debatable at the end of part 1 if he was as strong as or stronger than Kakashi. Now he should be definitively stronger than Kakashi, above the likes of Kakuzu, Hidan, the lower tier Akatsuki members, and above Rasen Shuriken Naruto as well.
Yeah, so Sasuke at the beginning of Shippuden has some really impressive assertions. I mean, his databook statement just like talking about how even his speed alone is able to just like blow away some of the Akatsuki members. So putting him on that level, it's going to be really difficult to get early Anbu Itachi there. Now, early Anbu Itachi in the novels is pretty impressive, but the problem is he suffers from a lack of actual showings. And what I mean by that is like he fights almost nobody in the novels. We know he spars with Shisui, but they don't use their Sharingan because they want to conserve chakra. And in sparring with Shisui, he still loses 2/3 of those matches. Now he is able to best him a few times, but my theory about Shisui has always been that the reason why he was so good with the body flicker, which is like his main thing, is that his Sharingan perception allowed for him to utilize it to a higher degree than other people, and he just trained that specifically. So it's potentially the case that without using his Sharingan, he's not able to utilize his typical combat style. So the gap between those two might actually be larger than what a lot of people actually pull from the novels. Shisui is a Jonin at this point in time, more likely than not. He's going out on missions by himself. Hiruzen even gives him the right to like kind of control his own movements and do sort of whatever he wants. So his assertions are pretty high, but I'm not sure if they're as high as even early Shippuden Kakashi. I would argue Shisui should be higher because he did awaken his Mangekyo when he was 8 years old, and he probably died somewhere around 16 to 18 years old based on the statement about him being a few years older than Itachi when they met. With that being the case, he should have at least some version of the Susanoo, which is sort of corroborated by Kishimoto's Naruto Top 99 poll that he drew. He has like the illustration of Shisui with what appears to be the like Susanoo lance thing that he has. So if that's the case, and he doesn't use that in their sparring matches, he doesn't use his body flicker in their sparring matches. He does use his fire style, and Itachi is stated to have a fireball that's like only potentially second to Fugaku and Shisui. You could maybe say that, like, excluding Mangekyo abilities, Itachi's sort of on that same tier, but again, we don't really get anything that puts him that high. The final thing I'll add here, though, is Shisui is confident that Itachi can take on basically the entire fighting force of the Uchiha clan outside of Fugaku and himself, because when he's going to ambush Fugaku and put him under a genjutsu, he tells Itachi, like, don't show up to the meeting, and it's not because I'm worried about you dealing with Yashiro. You can deal with Yashiro and the rest. I just think it'd be better if you're not there. And Yashiro and the rest would be referring to the entire fighting force of the Uchiha clan outside of Shisui and Fugaku. So since we know that the eyeballs that Obito has in his little hideout are from the Uchiha Massacre, but we're talking about dozens of Sharingan users. We know Jonin are there, so like you can get Itachi to this like high Jonin, peak Jonin tier fairly easily. But with Sasuke's higher assertions that he gets in the beginning of Shippuden, I think we should lean in the direction of Sasuke here. Are you sort of on the same page there, or do you think there's anything for Itachi that may be able to swing the tides?
No, I'm pretty much in agreement.
Got you. Okay, so round 2 goes to Sasuke, and round 3, this one I think should be relatively quick. We have Hebi Sasuke versus Massacre Itachi. Do you want to go over Hebi Sasuke really quick?
I mean, Hebi Sasuke is just similar to the last Sasuke I brought up, except this time he's got Orochimaru for a boosted healing factor, and I guess he should have been getting a little bit stronger through his constant hatred amps. Like he says when he goes up against Itachi the second time, no matter how much stronger you are than me, I use my hatred to turn fantasy into reality. But other than that, he should be fairly similar. Now he has Orochimaru style substitution. Still use the curse mark too. Same guy.
Yeah, so he is impressive. He is able to, combat people like Deidara, and even while holding back, not trying to kill him, he's able to just outperform him. So he is a super impressive combatant, but the problem is he's going up against an Itachi who has had the Mangekyo Sharingan for over a year now. We get confirmation of that in the Itachi novels, where it states that Shisui's death happened a year prior to, or just over a year prior to the Uchiha Massacre. So Since we know Itachi says Susanoo took root in his eyes shortly after awakening the other two abilities in his eyes, which he would have gotten whenever he awoken them, because that's just consistently what we see, that would mean that he's probably had some form of the Susanoo for over a year. I don't want to go all the way to like him having that half-body armored Susanoo or anything, and you may not even be able to make a substantiatable claim that he has the Totsuka blade or the Yatamir, but he should have at least like the rib cage or maybe even like the skeletal Susanoo. And on top of that, he has Amaterasu, he's got Tsukiyomi, both of which he used during the massacre. He's just catapulted above the tier of shinobi he already was, which was somebody who could take down multiple Jonin with no issues, along with several other Chunin and Genin, in being able to take on the entire fighting force of the Uchiha clan. So it's like, his assertions now just go through the roof, and I'm not sure that Hebi Sasuke has anything that can really do any damage against even the skeletal Susanoo outside of potentially Kirin. But if we're assuming they're both going all out here, Itachi's not putting out the Amaterasu like he did before, you know, like he's not giving him an easier version of Tsukiyomi to break out of, which is the interpretation that I'm under. So I think it's pretty clear that Massacre Itachi takes this. Are you under the same interpretation?
Yeah, it's just like it really would come to with Tsukiyomi if you think Itachi did use that lower form of Tsukiyomi on Sasuke, and how you think that actually works, like, you know, holding back a genjutsu, whether he's holding back the time dilation, he's not controlling space as much as he normally would. All of it is pretty consistent. I mean, Sasuke is just he's fake pulling out Sasuke's eyes. You get what I mean? Like that's not
Right.
some effective method of torture. So it seems pretty consistent to interpret it that way.
So next up, we have Taka versus Part 1 Itachi, or Taka Sasuke versus Part 1 Itachi. How do you feel about this matchup, Six?
Yeah, this guy sucks. Like, this is Sasuke that's just blatantly weaker than the Sasuke that already fought Itachi while Itachi was dying off his medicine and still would have lost already. And we're talking Part 1 Itachi, who should be every bit as strong as that guy, but with more stamina, because he's either not sick at this point or he's taking his medicine at this point. So he could, when he does Tsukuyomi this time, use Tsukuyomi where he's actually using time dilation, sort of like what he did to Sasuke in Part 1, and actually, you know, break Sasuke's mind this time. Now, if you think Sasuke still break out, that's whatever. Itachi should still just be much more physically strong than him, considering the fight he had with Hebi Sasuke. This is really the first fight on the list is kind of like completely one-sided. I don't think that there's really an argument you're gonna give for Sasuke here. Sasuke uses Amaterasu, Itachi counters with his own Amaterasu that should be stronger, considering, you know, he actually knows how to use it. Sasuke starts using Kagutsuchi, Yatamir can block it all. I mean, if you think Itachi has the Yatamir at this point, which I think it's pretty likely he does, and he at the bare minimum has the Susanoo that Sasuke shouldn't be able to penetrate with anything that he has. So it's just, this one's just kind of unfair, in my opinion. It's just Itachi W.
He's going to have way better proficiency with the Tsukiyomi and just his MS abilities in general. So I don't see a scenario in which this version of Sasuke wins. He should be physically inferior, and in terms of hacks, Itachi's just better overall. I will point out, some people use the data book statements that talk about him, his stats increasing, and then it says now that he has the Mangekyo Sharingan, his stats will like continue to go up. What people fail to realize is that this covers from like the beginning of Shippuden all the way up to chapter 402 whenever he awakens his MS. It doesn't actually cover past that. And so those stats could just be a reflection of literally from the beginning of Shippuden to 402 when he awakens his MS. So like all of the stat buffs he would have gotten via training, via hatred amps, all of that stuff is retained, even if he loses the healing factor that he got from Orochimaru being absorbed. So people try to use that to say like the Mangekyo is amping his speed and all of these things, and it's like, we just know from Jugo that he's weaker than he was prior to. Moving on to the next matchup, we have 5 Kage Summit Sasuke versus Battle of Brothers Itachi. So Sig Itachi that we see versus Sasuke. How do you feel about this? I think this might be the most interesting one on the list.
At best you get for Sasuke with this matchup is that these two are relative, because in Data Book 4, it's captioning whenever Sasuke first gets the EMS and awakens. It says now that he has the EMS, he has eye techniques and techniques that surpass Itachi. And then we know he goes and fights with Edo Itachi, and that's not the case. So it's not talking about Edo Itachi, it's talking about a live Itachi. And if that's when he gets eye techniques and techniques that surpass Itachi, that means that MS Sasuke or 5 Kage Summit Sasuke does not have eye techniques or techniques that surpass Itachi. So at best you get for Sasuke here is that he's relative to Itachi. Seems to be somewhat consistent. Danzo says they're two brothers with the same powers. How long it's been since Danzo saw Itachi is likely unknown, and I doubt Itachi just did a giant power display on him when he did see him. But I'm just saying it seems somewhat consistent with what's said in the manga. So if at best that's what you get for Sasuke, then Itachi can kind of tie break with, you know, either Tsukuyomi, Yada Mirror, or Totsuka Blade, weapons that kind of can't be defended against, and give him the ultimate defense. His biggest enemy here is gonna be stamina, obviously, because Battle of Brothers Itachi does not take his medicine. And, you know, we saw him tire out in the fight with Sasuke. You know, he can last, obviously, but Sasuke not only has more chakra at this point, and, you know, that they're going to be fighting outside, or whether they fight where Itachi fights or they fight where Sasuke fights, there's going to be access to Kirin for Sasuke, another one that Itachi's going to have to block. So in a drawn out battle, Sasuke could probably take this since he's just stronger than when he fought Itachi the first time, has more chakra. But if Itachi wants to get Sasuke out of there quickly and he tries his hardest, he could probably manage something with the Totsuka Blade, Yada Mirror shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean, Sasuke has no counter for the Totsuka Blade, and absolutely nothing that can get past the Yada Mirror. So, like, most of his techniques, if not all of them, are just off the table. But then you take into account the fact that Itachi, I think, and I think most people agree with this, is probably smarter than Sasuke, in both overall knowledge and in battle tactics. Whereas Sasuke is not dumb at all; he's like super smart. But I think Itachi just continuously shows that he's one of the top intellects in the verse. Same with Sasuke, don't get me wrong, but I would give him the edge in just battle IQ, I suppose. So if you have a character who has the edge in intelligence, who has the edge in hacks, and can counter everything that Sasuke throws at him, I don't really see a scenario in which Sasuke wins here unless he fatigues out Itachi, which is very possible. So I would give this one to Itachi probably 7 or 8 out of 10 times, with the 2 to 3 wins from Sasuke coming from just like fatiguing out Itachi. Are you on board with that, or you have a slightly different view?
No, not at all.
All right, so now we move on to our last matchup. We have early EMS Sasuke versus Edo Itachi. Now, what we're going to do is, this is Edo Itachi's stats, but he's alive, so he's killable. Because Sasuke doesn't have any sealing jutsu, so it would be really unfair to just like put him up against somebody he has 0 way to put down. And this is going to be, early EMS is going to be from the Kabuto fight. So how do you think he does against this version of Sasuke?
This is sort of similar to the last one, where at best Sasuke is relative to Itachi, and then Itachi has the Totsuka Blade and Yada Mirror in his back pocket. Where like we see them both fight against Kabuto, Itachi is clearly the more competent fighter here, protecting Sasuke when he can't be protected, keeping his Susanoo up during the White Rage extreme attack when Sasuke can't keep his Susanoo up, blocking Kabuto, countering him with water style. Itachi just seems to be a lot more effective here, although they do seem to have similar stats where they're both reacting with the Madarasu at the same time and spreading it. They seem to have similar stats. Itachi's just smarter and has better weapons. So I sort of view this in kind of the same light as the last fight.
Yeah, like Six said, he does still have the Totsuka blade, he does still have the Yata mirror, he does still have the superior intellect. So, unless there's a scaling disadvantage, which there's no evidence for, then Sasuke doesn't really have much hope here. So, I think we give this one to alive Edo Itachi as well, bringing our total to 4, 1, and 1 in Itachi's favor. I promise you, we're not just trying to bully Sasuke here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give one more round, and we're just gonna say peak EMS Sasuke versus every version of Itachi all at once at the same time. But Edo is like, you know, alive. How do you think that goes? Let's give Sasuke some love.
Okay, so peak EMS Sasuke, you can say, right, is close to Sage Madara level alive. Now, why am I saying this? Madara says, or a lot of people would attribute Sasuke stabbing Madara to Madara simply letting Sasuke stab him for, you know, whatever reason. But Madara does say there that Sasuke's got a Sharingan pattern similar to his, and it's a no wonder he has good moves. So I think it's probably a more legitimate stab, although Madara was weaving him a lot prior to that. It seems like Sasuke kind of just caught him. I mean, that's similar to what happens in any fight between people who are, you know, of relative skill. One person can dodge, maybe they'll get caught with a punch. So if Sasuke is kind of at that level, I don't really know what we're gonna be expecting any of the Itachis to do here. Obviously, you know, Itachi still has his spirit weapons, so I guess he could hide behind his Susanoo if he really wants to. I just don't think that there's a way he's going to be competing with Sasuke here, who's gotten much stronger over the course of things. You could even say he's caught up with KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto by the point where they're actually attacking Jubito together. Because Sasuke loses the curse mark on his Susanoo, wraps it around Naruto's QB avatar, and then, you know, they seem to be relative there.
We knew this was going to be kind of one-sided when we went into it, because Itachi is just like the superior genius, I think, and throughout the series just has better hacks. So we wanted to give Sasuke a layup here. But yeah, that's it for the video. Six, you got anything to add before we go?
Nope. Subscribe to Sage.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe, notification bell so you never miss out when new content drops, blah, blah, blah. Have an awesome day.